to the Audacity Show with me, your host, Stephanie Young. I am beyond honored that you choose to be here every Wednesday or any Wednesday, or even on the replay on Wednesdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, or any time in between, depending on when or where you are watching from. Again, I am Stephanie Young, and I'm so honored that you choose to be here and spend some of your time with me on Wednesdays or on the replay whenever you catch me. It's truly a joy to have you here with me and to dive in to the myriad of topics that we talk about that relate to how we can live a more audacious life, how we can jump into a life that is willing to take surprisingly bold risks to make our dream life a reality. And I am also super excited for anyone who hopped on simply to see what my hair looked like, because last week it was long and curly and this week it is short and not. So anyway, if you were hopping on just to see my hair, I do appreciate it. Thank you for joining me simply to see it. It's been an incredibly freeing experience to do this drastic haircut, and it's been a huge part of my personal fall reset as I'm preparing to release the Audacious Fall Reset that is coming and starting in September. So if you want more information about our upcoming fall reset, drop a reset in the comments below, and I would love to get you all the information about what we're doing for September, October, and November to help you start to take your dreams and make it reality this fall. Today, we are jumping into the topic of how the only permission that you need is your own, which might seem kind of crazy because there are definitely some things in life that we need outside permission for. Examples, we need permission to have a driver's license. We have to pass a driving test to be able to have that. We have speed limits, other things. We need permits for other things in life. In some ways, it would be great to live as though Ron Swanson does on Parks and Rec, to just show up with a piece of paper that says, I have a permit and I can do this. That would be super fun. But some things in life we do actually need permission for. But for you to take your destiny, your future, your dreams, and to make them reality and to see them come true and to embrace the audacity to pursue the things that you want and that you're passionate about, the only permission you need is your own. So we are going to dive into that today. We're going to dive into what it looks like when you give yourself the permission to chase after your dreams. And again, thank you for joining me. I'm Stephanie Young. I support women who are ready to lessen the overwhelm in their life so that they can embrace wild, audacious success as they make their dreams reality. And we do this with my Audacious Life Decluttering Strategy and Coaching programs, all of which are readily available to you anytime. Simply drop a fall reset below and we will start the conversation about what your fall reset can look like so that you can lessen overwhelm in your life and embrace audacious living so that you can have the life that you've always wanted. So let's jump right in. What is permission and why do you need it? Because I'm sure you're like, Stephanie, I'm an adult. I don't understand why I even need to talk about this, but I think it is important. Permission is the act of asking for and receiving authorization to do something. It's quite frankly that simple. It's the act of asking for and receiving authorization to do something. And a lot of times, even as adults, we can, we can be wanting authorization from another human or validation from another human to say, like, yes, it's okay if you do this, or yes, it's okay if you try this. Like an example in real life for me would be if I want to make a big significant purchase for our household, I'll typically go to my husband and be like, hey, like, this is the amount of money I want to spend. Like, do we agree that this is a purchase we need to make? And usually we talk about it to say, like, yes, this is a purchase we should make. Let's go for it. And we try to agree on those kinds of things together. Otherwise, we'd both be spending willy-nilly and but bills would not get paid. But anyway, so like it's not so much that I'm going like, hey, honey, can I spend this money? It's like, do we agree that this is a purchase that's beneficial for the family? And so it's receiving that authorization of like, okay, I'm not like completely going crazy here. But In our day-to-day lives, we might not necessarily need permission for all kinds of things. We would need it for things like going into somebody's yard. We don't necessarily walk into people's yards and just like take things out of their yard. That would be a little crazy. But we don't necessarily need permission to like walk into a grocery store. Anybody's allowed to walk into a grocery store, though you would need to do it with a shirt and pants and shoes. But when it comes to like our personal life and pursuing our dreams, sometimes it might feel like we need permission to do that. We need authorization from someone or an outside source that says, yes, it's okay to pursue your dreams. It's okay to pursue your passion. And so where do we get that permission? Why do we need that permission? Why do we need that validation? And so today I'd love to talk about that. I'd love for us to dive into that so that we are in a place where we can be open to validating ourselves and validating our own dreams and our own hopes so that we can give ourselves the permission we need to start pursuing living a more audacious life, living out our dreams. So what is permission and why do we need it? Permission is the authorization to do something. So you may need to be able to have the power to give yourself the authorization to do something big and crazy in your life. So what might this look like, or what is the power of permission? Because there is something incredibly freeing about granting yourself permission. Personally, for me, it was the permission to just chop off all my hair. I'd been growing it out for about 3 years. I wanted to see how long it could go, what it looked like. And in my brain, I just kept saying like, oh, I just need to go a little bit longer. Oh, I just need to see what it'll look like. If I just keep going, it'll be more fun. It'll be more fun. And it sort of hit me that I really like my hair short. Like I prefer it short. I have way more fun when it's short. I like it short. My head hurts less when it's short, like all the things. And it was like, oh my gosh, I don't need anyone's permission to make this decision. I can simply go and do it. But I had been battling in myself, whose permission do I need to do this? And it was me. And so often you might be battling in your soul, oh, I really want to pursue this thing. I want to pursue working a different job in a different field, or I want to pursue volunteering, or I want to pursue a new hobby. I want to pursue chasing a passion, but I don't know what to do and I feel conflicted. And so it can be very helpful to talk it out with someone and say, what are some of the pros or the cons? It's always good to have a sounding board, but oftentimes deep in your soul, you will know that it's best for you to jump into that thing and to say, oh my gosh, like I didn't need another human to come in and say, oh yeah, you can totally do that. I needed the validation from myself to say, yes, you can do that. And yes, you can take that chance. And yes, you can have permission to maybe fail, but to also maybe wildly succeed in trying that new thing and trying that new career, or trying that new hobby, or trying that new passion that you just really, really wanted to try, or even doing something like cutting your hair. Maybe giving yourself the power to say, I am going to do this new thing for myself. I'm going to try this new thing to see if it lights my soul on fire, and to see if it is going to allow me the freedom to feel like the person that I know deep down I really truly am. And so a lot of times when we are trying to figure out who needs to give us the permission, it's often ourselves, or how, like what that permission, like where that power comes from. Again, it can come so deeply from ourselves. And even if we don't necessarily recognize it, we often don't know how to give ourselves that permission. So it's like, okay, great. If the power comes from me and I'm the one that has to give myself permission, how on earth do I do that, Stephanie? How do I find the strength in myself to go, okay, I'm going to be bold and I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to try this new thing? Because it can be so easy to get caught up in our day-to-day life and our like the things that need to be done around our house and for our families. It can be so easy. And sometimes it can be overwhelming when these things are happening. And so we sometimes forget to slow down, or we forget to relax or have some fun. And so even when we like have all those things to do, sometimes the easiest way to start giving yourself permission is to say, hey, maybe this task could wait. Maybe this task isn't as urgent. Maybe the laundry could get folded tomorrow and I could chill and like try this hobby. Like maybe you've always wanted to try knitting. And I use knitting as an example because I know a ton of people who knit and they are insanely good at it. And it's very fun to even watch them knit because I am amazed at what they can produce. Like it's just beautiful and stunning, some of the pieces that they've created. And I know for a couple of them, they've said, like, I feel guilty not getting housework done so I can sit down and knit. And it's that reminder, and we've talked about it, the two, like them and me, like we've talked about how much joy knitting brings to their life, and how when they give themselves permission to slow down and not worry about the housework, and to say, even for just 30 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour, however much time they're able to give themselves to sit and knit, the amount of joy that that brings to their life kind of like refills their tank and re-gives them energy to be able to tackle the laundry or the dishes or whatever else that they have to do on their to-do list that feels like it never ends. And so when you give yourself permission to do smaller things that help refill your tank and help like keep your soul like alive and thriving, you start to see where you can give yourself permission to do bigger things, and maybe take a half a day for yourself to go to the spa or take a hike, or try like actually try to learn a new hobby or volunteer somewhere that you're passionate, maybe at like a dog rescue, or with horses, like whatever it is that you really feel passionate about, to be able to volunteer in those areas. But when you start to give yourself little permissions for things that bring joy, you can then start to see the possibility for giving yourself bigger permissions to do things. But it is easy. It's so easy to get caught up in the day to day and feel guilty about taking the time for yourself. But when you allow yourself to say, no, I'm going to slow down just a little bit and have some fun, or just a little bit and relax. And I'm doing this so that I am pouring from a fuller cup. And I'm doing this to take care of my mental health and my physical health. It almost can and will start to like quiet that guilty voice that's there yelling at us sometimes as women. I know it happens to men too, that says, oh, you should be up and doing something, or you should be up and doing that. We should ignore that voice, like stop shooting all over ourselves and allow our bodies and our brains to get the rest and like healing that it needs, and allow ourselves the permission to take those breaks, and allow ourselves to recognize the power we have to grant ourselves the permission to enjoy and to slow down. So, what are some of the benefits of granting ourselves the permission, of knowing what permission is, of seeing the power of having permission, of giving ourselves the permission? But what are some of the benefits? So, it might be that you feel more empowered to make your own decisions and not having to rely on other people so heavily. And maybe you already are fiercely independent, and it was like, man, this feels even better. But you might feel like you have more control of your surroundings because you feel more empowered to make those decisions about your surroundings. Maybe you just want to have more feelings of not just control in like a controlling way, like, oh, I have to be in control, but the power to change the environment where you are to make it more cozy or inviting. For example, I'm going to take the slide down. I am surrounded by plants in my little like office area, and there's plants in most of my home. And I have always loved plants. I love it when I see things on Instagram where it's like indoor jungles and it gives that vibe of like the outdoors inside. It always makes my heart super happy. And I have tons of plant friends that feel the same way. And we always joke about how we have to justify our spending on plants or the bringing in of a new orphan plant. Um, like if somebody leaves a plant, out for trash pickup or whatever, and we're like, I rescued the plant, or however, we always feel like, and there are tons of jokes about plant people like rescuing plants and bringing them in. And so we always are giving ourselves permission to rescue those plants or love the plants or take care of them, and also having to like justify it to a significant other. And it's really empowering when some of us realize, like, actually, the plants are helping the other people in our house too. And even my spouse remarked, my husband was like, as you started adding all these plants, it kind of started feeling more homey. And so sometimes when we give ourselves permission to improve things in our own life, it has a trickle effect and starts to improve things in other people's lives around us too. And so, one of the benefits of granting yourself permission to improve something in your own life can also have added benefits to those around you. And so, it almost gives permission to others to then try and have permission for themselves, which is crazy and amazing how when you have goodness in one area, it can spread to all these other areas too. And in case you didn't hear, my cat Meatball totally agrees. Oh yeah, you see, he's just up in his cat tree telling us how it is. When you grant yourself permission, one of the benefits is that it really gives you and allows you to take responsibility for your own happiness. And I think it's easy as humans, and I've seen this a lot in what I've researched about happiness and what I've listened to in audiobooks about happiness, is that we as human beings often rely on other people for our own happiness too much. And it's a thing that we've kind of been taught most of our lives. But really, we're responsible for our own happiness. And when we grant ourselves permission to explore and see what we truly love, and we take responsibility for it, it allows us to maybe even find happiness faster and find joy in things way faster, because we're allowing and opening ourselves up to the possibility of more happiness and more joy, and being willing to see and experience more of it. And so that is definitely one of the benefits of granting yourself permission. It is seriously such an amazing and powerful thing. So, what are some ways that we can say yes to ourselves more often, that we can grant ourselves permission, especially when it's something that we're not used to doing, especially if it's something that's a very new concept? Like, how can we give ourselves permission to do more things in life that light our souls on fire, help us embrace audacity, help us be willing to take bold risks so that our dream life can become a reality? How can we like embrace all of these things, and how can we start granting ourselves permission? There are a few ways, and I'd love to share them with you, because this is definitely, when you are just starting to do this for yourself, it can feel really daunting. So, what are some ways that we can say yes to ourselves more often to make it a practice to have permission more in our lives? Number one, we can set aside a little bit of time for ourselves every single day. Now, if you are a super busy human, super busy mama, daddy, however busy you are, like, I get it for you to be like, oh my heavens, you are asking me to set aside time for myself every single day. Now, whether you have 1 minute, an hour, it doesn't matter. But setting aside a little bit of time for yourself every single day can be an amazing way to start allowing yourself to permission to experience more happiness and joy in your life, and to experience like the power of saying like I am a priority in my own life. It is an incredibly beautiful thing. And so maybe for you, it is enjoying one page of a really good book, or knitting one row in whatever knitting project you're working on, or enjoying your coffee while it's hot, which is a struggle sometimes, I know. Or maybe you like iced coffee, and so it's enjoying your coffee before the ice melts. Maybe it's doing a 2-minute meditation rather than a 10-minute meditation, or sitting on your back stoop for just a few minutes to watch the sunrise or the sunset, but setting just a little bit of time for yourself every day to remind yourself that you are allowed and welcome to be a priority in your own life, granting yourself the permission to have that little bit of time just for you. Again, whether it's a minute or an hour, giving yourself that time for yourself. Giving yourself the grace to make mistakes. I'm not going to lie, I love this tip. And here is why. Because I'm a huge fan of wild, audacious success. I wish that for every human being that I encounter. If I encounter you for 2 minutes in the grocery store and I didn't even catch your name, in my brain, I am hoping that you, as a complete stranger to me, have wild, audacious success in your life. It's simply what I want every human being to have. But I know that we're human and sometimes we make mistakes. So I also try to embrace my wild, audacious failures, because I can learn from wild, audacious failures, and so can you. And that might mean that you might try a hobby, you might attempt to take up painting and learn that you are a terrible painter and that there is zero joy in your life from trying to paint. Or you might try to take up outdoor gardening. And in the habit of outdoor gardening, you might find, like I did, that you do not remember to water your outdoor plants very often, and they all die in the summer heat of July and August. And so instead of beautiful plants outside of your office window, you have 3 that survived and 17 that did not. But you can learn from this, and I have learned that I need to stick to indoor plants. But if you give yourself the grace to make mistakes and the permission to sometimes fail, you may learn something super amazing. So set aside a little time for yourself and give yourself the grace to make mistakes, because you're human. And we humans are super good at sometimes making mistakes. But I believe that we humans are also super good at finding wild success. Number 3, compliment yourself often. Compliment yourself often. And this might be a little bit more of a struggle for some of us, because some of us might not have been taught how to be naturally confident, or we might have felt confident at some point, and then somebody who was influential in our life came along and just knocked us like right in the teeth. And you were like, seriously? And so this one might take some extra practice, which is why giving yourself the grace to make mistakes can be helpful, because this is a practice. Complimenting yourself often is a practice. It takes time to remember how to love yourself, and it takes time to remember to find things about yourself to love. It takes time. And so, even if it's just in the mirror for 2 seconds saying, you look good today, until you start to believe it, take that second and look yourself in the eye and say, you look good today. And maybe you can't look yourself in the eye. And so you just kind of glance and say, you look good today, and run. Give yourself the grace to try until you start to believe it. And then you might say, dang, you look great today. But give yourself a compliment often. You can do it on your appearance, a skill that you're trying to work on something that you did. Any little compliment you can give yourself, I encourage you to give this a try and see how over time giving yourself compliments will change your life. Lastly, be patient with yourself. It is sometimes easier to be patient with others than to be patient with ourselves. I will totally 100% own up to that. That it is way easier for me to be patient with my child than to be patient with myself. And yet, change takes time. And so it can be easy to get frustrated. But getting frustrated with ourselves isn't going to help us see the results. So, as we are learning how to set aside time for ourselves and how to give ourselves the grace to make mistakes and compliment ourselves often, we also need to remember to be patient with ourselves and to allow ourselves the permission to be patient with ourselves the same way we would be patient with other people. Because change does take time and it often doesn't happen overnight, but you are worth the time that it takes to allow yourself to see those changes, those small changes that build up over time that will give you the wild, audacious success you've been hoping for. And those things that take time, that build up, will help you take your dream from reality. So, friends, I hope that these things were all super eye-opening, that they're all like helpful for you, that there's something that you can take away from today so that you can start granting yourself the permission to start embracing audacity and embracing making your dream life reality so that you can have wild, audacious success in every single thing that you attempt to do. And if you find that maybe granting yourself permission is a little harder than you expected, and you would like someone to walk along beside you and say, I want to grant myself permission, but like maybe it would be nice if someone could go, oh, yeah, you could totally do that. I've got you. Or, yes, you can totally give yourself permission to do that thing. That is something that we will 100% be going over in the fall reset starting in September. And I would love to chat with you about what that kind of things and what those support looks like. We can talk about that. If you pop comment below and just say fall reset, we can start talking about how you can get personalized support in embracing audacity and in walking into a life of making your dreams reality. And again, thank you everyone for, I know people are just hopping on and seeing my haircut. Thank you. But I would love to see every single person that I come into contact with have wild, audacious success in their life. Friends, I will see you next week at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, where we will cover another topic that helps lessen overwhelm in your life and brings your dream life into reality so that you can have wild, audacious success. Have a super wonderful Wednesday. I will see you next week. And again, if you are ready for some awesome, wild, audacious success in your life, drop a fall reset in the comments and let's chat about what that looks like for you. Have an amazing